Greetings from Jacksonville, where there is a non-competitive game going on right now, and many sports writers will be in this room wanting snacks at halftime very soon. But we have to talk about what happened in Lawrence, Kansas. Kansas 38, Oklahoma 33. One team, one conference champion, one Power 5 champion is going to have at least one loss. I know you guys have been sending me all these scenarios saying, well, what happens if all of these guys are undefeated? Well, they're not. They will not all be undefeated. You are going to have at least one Power 5 champ with a loss. And the Big 12, it could be more than that, because think about this. Oklahoma just lost to Kansas. They got to play the last edition, at least for now, of Bedlam next week. You think Oklahoma State wants to send Oklahoma out of this with a loss as Oklahoma heads on to the SEC? Of course they do. So you've got suddenly surging Oklahoma State. You've got suddenly surging Kansas State going to Austin next week to play Texas. Did you see Kansas State against Houston? It was unbelievable. They crushed the Cougars, just crushed them. So it is going to be a wild finish in the Big 12. And I got to tell you, Kansas in this game was just incredible. This is why, and I know none of the Kansas fans want to hear this today, but this is why everybody's looking at Lance Leipold, why everybody is wondering, could we get him if we have an opening? The job he's done here is absolutely incredible. Think about this. Lance Leipold gets hired the day before the spring game in 2021 after they fire Les Miles. They were an absolute mess. They were the biggest dumpster fire in all of the Power 5. Kansas is not only just a competitive team, they are a flat-out good team. And this is without who they thought was going to be their starting quarterback in Jalen Daniels. Jason Bean, 15 of 32, 218 yards in this game. Now, he threw 2 picks, but he also ran 4 times for 62 yards. Devin Neal, 25 carries for 112 yards. What a game for the Jayhawks. Huge win. This is the biggest home win that I can remember. Maybe since 07. Maybe that 07 Orange Bowl season. But it is just a phenomenal way to keep this season going, because I think with Kansas, when you saw him go to Texas, when Jalen Daniels didn't play and Texas basically dominated them, you thought, all right, is it going to fall off? Was this just they were beating up on less talented teams and they just weren't going to be able to? No, they can beat these teams. And Oklahoma, meanwhile, they beat Texas, huge win, very big vindication for Brent Venables. But then they get a scare from UCF, and you think, okay, are they going to be okay? Are they going to be able to get to the Big 12 championship game without a loss? The answer is no. They've lost to Kansas. Now, they still have that tiebreak with Texas in their pocket. But remember, K-State, if they can beat Texas, they take Texas off the board, at least for a little while. So that game in Austin next week is going to be huge. K-State, since they started sprinkling in Avery Johnson at quarterback, has been a very different team. They annihilated TCU last week. They crushed Houston this week. Remember, Texas played Houston last week and barely survived. Kansas State obliterated the Cougars. So this is going to be a really, really fun next few weeks in the Big 12. I cannot wait to see what happens, because if K-State wins, they control their destiny. Oklahoma controls its destiny. But if Oklahoma State can beat Oklahoma, all of this gets thrown into complete chaos. And that's what we want, right? That's all we want in these end of season scenarios is complete chaos. And I think that's what we're going to get in the Big 12. So great job by Kansas. Oklahoma, we probably should have seen this coming with the UCF game, but it was one of those where, you watch that UCF game, you look at the advanced stats, you say, okay, they got beat by a couple big plays. That was really it. They played better than UCF on the whole, even though UCF had a 2-point conversion there to tie. This time, they didn't. They flat out got beat. Weird game. Had a lightning delay there in the second quarter, but Kansas was the better team, and it showed. And that's a credit to Lance Leipold and his staff. It's a credit to those players most of whom have stuck it out. And I mean, I'm telling you, Big 12 is going to be an absolute joy to watch at the end of the season. Oklahoma fans upset with Jeff Levy's play calling. He said it's baffling. OU beat themselves in just about every way. A lot of Jeff Levy criticism going on in the chat about them getting conservative at the end. And look, Kansas wasn't conservative because they couldn't be. Oklahoma goes up 33-32. Kansas in a situation where there's really not much else they can do, and they're chucking it down the field. And I tell you what, Jason Bean looked very comfortable back there, and we don't know if we're going to see Jalen Daniels. He was warming up for this game. You wonder if they get him back, how do they handle that situation? But right now, they're doing great with Jason Bean. So strap in for the rest of the Big 12 schedule. K-State, Texas next week, going to be a banger. So much fun. We got a lot more to talk about. We'll talk to you again later tonight.